The old layout is now gone, but work has already begun on the Cross Harbor version 2.0. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Back a few months ago, I mentioned that I wanted to start producing some N-scale videos and getting them up on my channel, and I really haven't been able to determine what format I want to follow or what I'm actually going to do with these videos, but I figured I needed to start someplace, and this is it. So, while we watch a few clips of me destroying my old layout, I'm going to talk a little bit about the new layout. The Cross Harbor version 2.0 aims to address many of the issues that plagued my original layout, including absolutely awful wiring, lots of track problems, derailments, and an overall better replica of Bush Terminal Cross Harbor Railroad Yard in general. The original layout, while it was really nice to look at, was barely functional. The track was very badly wired in many places and suffered from a lot of stalls and derailments. The street running track did not work at all, and a lot of the industries were off of the street running track, so basically the layout was entirely useless. Version 2.0 aims to address all of those issues with better wiring, actual switch mechanisms to throw the turnouts, and a better overall track plan that better represents Bush Terminal as a whole. I should preface this video by saying I don't know how often these videos are going to come out or what exactly is going to be covered in these videos. I just know I wanted to start showing off some of the things that I'm doing on my layout and share it with you guys. I tend to gravitate towards tutorial type videos. Those are the type of videos that I like to watch on YouTube, and those are the type of videos that I like to produce. So I'm thinking that most of these videos are probably going to be more tutorial oriented, things like track projects, weathering projects, assembling buildings, and things like that, maybe with the occasional layout update. So what I'm going to do right now is turn this video over to Live Me, who is going to attempt to take you around the layout and explain some of the details of the current bench work and the track plan. I put together the bench work and put the backdrop on back in the spring, and so far I've got a bit of track laid out here. According to my track plan, this is not permanently a fixed track, it is just sort of temporarily put down just to make sure that I'm happy with the track plan and that it all fits in here. I'm not gonna really discuss the bench work that much because I'm not a carpenter and I don't have any carpentry tools or anything like that. So everything was hand cut, and it's pretty poorly put together, to be perfectly honest, but it gets the job done. The framework of the bench work is 1x4 lumber, and I'm using 2 inches of foam for the tabletop. Painted everything this sort of slate gray or just flat gray, just to have an undercoat in case any of the scenery material comes up. It's one thing that I wanted to make sure I did this time, and I made sure to add the backdrop before I did anything else. That way it was already part of the bench work. I had no backdrop on my previous layout, and I wanted to make sure that I had one on this one. And this also is a photograph that I took of the actual Brooklyn waterfront at the actual New York Cross Harbor Bush Terminal area. I started developing this track plan about a year ago, around last fall. Right now it is mid-August. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what I could fit in the space that I had available. And the way that I did it was that I first started by figuring out exactly how much space Bush Terminal would take up if you were to just shrink it down to N scale. And what I found out is that you could actually model Bush Terminal track for track in N scale within about 12 feet by 4 feet. Now, I don't have that much space. I've only got about 10 foot by, this is 18 inches deep. That's about as much room as I have in this office. So once I figured out that the full track for track plan could be done in 12 feet by 4 feet, I just began to shrink it down from there and work on making it fit the space that I had available. And the track plan that I came up with, I think, is a pretty good representation of the industries that are there. Obviously, I had to compress everything from the area that's further north, up at the Brooklyn, the SBK, the South Brooklyn Terminal, as in like some of these big buildings here. But I compressed it down to sort of just distill the whole area into one compressed 10-foot long by 18-foot deep model. And I'm pretty happy with the track work so far. I still need to get everything wired up and secure everything down, but I've done some test runs so far and I'm really happy with how it's developed. I built this bench work to be modular, so right here is actually a seam. So when the day comes that I have to move out of my apartment, all I have to do is cut the track right here across the the line, and hopefully it doesn't interfere with too much here. I tried to make sure that there weren't any turnouts directly over top of the seam, but I should be able to just take some of these turnouts apart, and that should be okay. But this whole thing should theoretically come apart in one 4-foot section. This section here is about 6 feet long or so. And then the actual car float area down here is about 4 feet by 18 inches as well. And that also has a seam right up in here, so that will just have to be cut. So this should be able to be broken down into about 3 different pieces that I theoretically should be able to transport and reassemble anytime that I need to move. The backdrop is also removable. It is just screwed right into the bottom of the back side of the benchwork. So that should be pretty easy to take apart. I'm using Atlas Code 55 for my track, including all the turnouts and everything. In my opinion, it is probably the best N-scale track that we have available right now. The turnouts are not always the greatest. I'm gonna do a video on how I make my turnouts a little bit more reliable than they are out of the box. And I think I'm gonna be using for turnout control, these hand thrown switches by Fast Tracks. So if I can get a shot of that. It's just a manual switch. I'll also do a video on how to build and install those as well. I'm also soldering all of my turnouts together, so this yard ladder is actually just one big unit, and I'm hoping that that will help improve some power continuity issues, but that is yet to be determined. I also plan on adding feeders at every single joint throughout, so that's gonna be a whole lot of feeders. All the frogs will also be juiced as well, so I'm hoping that that resolves any power issues. I had a lot of power issues on my last layout, and my goal for this one is to just have perfectly smooth running. Obviously, that's everybody's goal, is to have smooth running through all these turnouts and stuff like that. But since most of this layout is yard track and turnouts, I wanna make sure that the track work is absolutely bulletproof, and I'll be adding feeders. Pretty much every segment of track is gonna get some kind of a feeder. Aside from actually getting this thing fully functional and being able to start running some trains and testing things out, the first area that I'm actually gonna be working on is going to be the car float area here, the waterfront. In my mind, if I'm gonna be moving from this apartment in the next few months, which is a possibility, I don't know for sure, but eventually I'm gonna move, right? And my logic is that this would be the best first area to start in terms of doing scenery, because it's the smallest area where if I have to cut off the segment in order to move, it will be the least affected. And then the areas further down here, maybe I won't have to cut the track. Maybe I could just pull it up because it's not glued down yet. It's just temporary, if that makes any sense. So the first area that I really want to start working on and scenicking is going to be the car float area here. I've custom built a 3-track car float. This is, I'll talk about that separately. This is a Silva model. It's actually the same one as this, but I scratch built the top so that I could have a 3-track car float instead of a 2-track one. And that means that I'm gonna have to custom build the apron and the bridge and everything else that goes along with that. So that's gonna be a big project in itself, but I think that this is gonna be a good area to start with, and then get some scenery done here. And then I'll just work my way around the layout in a linear progression like that. So one of the biggest design flaws with the benchwork that I have here is the fact that it's sitting on top of these bookshelves by IKEA. So obviously I don't have easy access to the underside of the layout. If I need to get underneath to, let's say, install any of those turnout machines or do any wiring or anything like that, I actually have to pull the whole layout up against the front edge of the bookshelf and just sort of balance it and hope that I don't knock it over, which it kind of stinks. I don't really know of a better way to engineer it, but with the space that I have available here in my office, this is what I got. So I have to work with what I have, and this is what I came up with. So the entire benchwork just sits on a frame right on top of these bookshelves. I like to make videos in the format of videos that I like to watch, which tend to be tutorials. Obviously this wasn't a tutorial, this is just an intro to the layout and just to give you an overview. But I'm thinking some of the future videos are gonna be more tutorial oriented. I've got some ideas for some tutorials on how to improve the turnouts, the Atlas turnouts, how to lay track, how I do my soldering, the turnout controls that I have, some of the buildings that I wanna do, weathering projects and stuff like that. So that might be the bulk of the videos that you'll see on this layout, and maybe I'll do some updates here and there. I don't know that I'll do full-on build videos like I do for my trains virtual railroading stuff, but we'll see how this sort of develops. But I just wanted to bring you in and give you guys a little bit of an introduction as to how the layout is set up and what it looks like and just where it is as of August 2024. But that's all I got for this video, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment, and hope you guys are looking forward to seeing more. I'll see you guys next time.